Howdy, folks. Spencer here, and today I'm going to be talking about QA and STO. Now, I am going to be criticizing some things about, some parts of the Cryptic team. I'm not trying to be too negative, and I'm trying to offer some constructive criticism. So, for anything negative that I say, do not go out and like harass the developers or anything like that. Just don't be like that. So, the big thing, the main thing making me do this video today is really just this tweet from back in February that I put out regarding the Agony Redistributor console. It had two issues at launch. One was that if you used it alongside recursive shearing, it would do a massive amount of damage. But also, if you had two people hit the console on the same target at the same time, it just did a crazy amount of damage. Just to demonstrate this, let's take this example here in Paint. Let's say this is the start group in ISE. The center square here is the tack cube. The two squares to the side are the side cubes. And then you've got the four spheres. When you have one person activate the Agony Redistributor, it would just take 33% of the damage you do to the tack cube each second and distribute that to each of the secondary targets. So if you have the tack cube there and you do 1,000,000 damage to it in the first second, you would then be getting 330,000 damage going to each of these secondary targets. So with 6 targets there, you'd be doing just under 2,000,000 damage to those secondary targets, taking you to a total of 3,000,000 damage done in that second. Now, when you activate two of these Agony Redistributor consoles on the same target, however, which is for two people that have the console slotted that are hitting it on the same target at the same time or within 1 second of each other, what will happen is it will basically go through and just insta kill everything around the tack cubes. They or around that tack cube. Everything else just basically dies. So this is a very long-term issue that's been around for this, and they're aware of it. Like, this is literally the exact same issue that I talked about on this tweet 5.5 months ago. This picture, this damage chart, you can clearly see there's something wrong with that picture right there, right? Now, if I go and open a parse that I was sent earlier, this is from August 1st. This was uploaded to CLR, and they had rejected it because they have an approval filter set up for any records over a certain number. With SCM, if you meet the requirements, it just goes up, and then it would have to be pulled down later. So Tiberius from STO League, who handles CLR and CAT, sent me a message just giving me a heads up on this parse going through, so I went through and removed it. But the other part of the conversation that was really interesting that Tiberius was telling me about is that they had reported this once again to a QA member that was on Discord. And do not go out and message or harass this person, of course, but basically they explained the situation, they sent the copy of the combat log, and the response was that the QA individual did not want to look at 6 megabytes worth of data, and can we find the key lines, please? And the summary of the conversation is that when they're looking at the combat log files, they're looking line by line. Now you can do that, but it is a massive pain. Like, there's a tutorial up on the STO builds wiki. I'll link this down below if you want to look at it if you're curious. But looking through the combat logs raw, just looking line by line, yeah, I could understand why you wouldn't want to go through and look through 20,000 lines. But, you can always, if you know the name of the ability that's messing up, you can always just go in and Control F, Agony Redistributor. Find the next occurrence, like you can Control F, or you can use a parser. And what was really interesting from the conversation is it sounds like they're not using parsers, at least ones that have like graphs internally or something. I could be wrong. I could entirely be wrong. But when you look at something like this in a parser like SCM, CLR, CAT, or in the future Oscar, you can very clearly see a blatant jump up and tell that something's not quite right. Now, when I look at this a little bit deeper, In SCM specifically, this console, the Agony Redistributor, will end up showing up under your pets as whatever you hit it on. So in this case, this person hit on the gateway. And out of the 1.94 million DPS that they did, it accounted for almost 1.5 million. So without the Agony double stacking right there, this individual would have been at like what less 340k or 440. Like I can't do math right now, but you get the point. They would have not been at just under 2 million. Yeah, 440. So clearly something's not right there. Now, the reproduction steps for this are not hard. They're not hard at all. You know, and they were asking about, is it something that can be replicated with a naked character with absolutely nothing? And then after being told yes, they said, to be honest, to do any accurate testing, I need the exact way that those potential numbers are appearing. So I am going to pull up some footage that I took earlier. This is something that I did as just a player, you know, as someone with that on the QA team, especially with remote working. I imagine, I don't know if they're running local servers each, but they at least have a dev server that they can log into, where they can spawn in things. And all you need for this is just two accounts with the console. So I had my main account on the left side here, and on the right side is a secondary account that had a T6 coupon on it, the one from we got free from the anniversary event. So I used that coupon on the Adamant, and I got the console. Now the build on this secondary character. Let's take a look at it. That secondary character or secondary account on the right side of the screen has nothing. It's got nothing. Yeah, it's got two Mark 15 epic cannons on it that I put on it for whatever reason. And then it's got a Mark 4 cannon and just the stock weapons for everything else. Like, this character's got nothing. So let's see what this character does. So I went into an ISE. I had on the left side, I just had my tank character, and I just basically took it in, hit my space bar once. I didn't do a full proper rotation. Just hit my space bar, and then just made sure that the other account would be able to survive, and that both would really stay alive for the first 20 seconds. So I lined up the trays on both, so you can see I've got the agonies right next to each other, so I can quickly hit both of them. And now I'll go and fly in. On the left side, you see I've got everything grouped up also, just to make sure that everything was within 5 kilometers. Now on the secondary account, I just go in and I hit my agony consoles. I basically have hit nothing else. You can see I have Attack Power and Omega as my only buff. That's it. Look at these spheres at the top. Wow. Look at that. 6.4 million, 5.8 million, 5.8 million, 4.7 million. Now look at the real-time parser at the left side. That second account, not firing weapons for the, well, it may have fired a weapon after that, but you know, you saw its weapons. This is not doing 30 million damage in 1 second. So I will just let that roll for a few more seconds. You see basically all of the secondary items died. There was one cube that stayed alive somehow, but one of the side cubes and then 4 of the spheres just all died. So if I pull up the parse from that, you can see that that account did just under 35 million damage. And it was basically in just those 2 seconds for the most part. So if I go here, yeah, you see that the combat time's extended because it was being shot at initially, and then there were a couple seconds where it fired weapons after I had hit the agony console. So that agony console on that character, of the 34.74 million damage that character did, it did all but 35k. So it took me 2.5 minutes to replicate this issue. This was literally the first go. Um, it's not hard to replicate. I literally just I described how to replicate it and to the on the Twitter post that I made 5.5 months ago. I There's two issues here. Two issues. And I think Cryptic has ways to resolve both of them. If QA is not currently using some of the tools that the community has made that will make them much more efficient at detecting this type of stuff, like a parser, then they need to start using them. If they're worried about closed source one, or the ones that are publicly out there, if they're worried about that, there's open source ones currently under development, and I imagine that they have people internally that could get something tossed together fairly quickly that has a graph comparable to SCM, CLR, cat, whatever. Like, this is not something that should be hard for them to do internally if they don't already have tools like this. So the first issue with them not having the right tools, if they really don't, if as soon as they see a combat log, they're thinking that the only way to analyze it is to go line by line, that can be resolved. Get people to start using combat parsers and take advantage of that, because there's many things that have launched in the past couple of years that any consoles that overperformed, using a parser like this, just trying it out with a bunch of different variables, you can clearly see when something goes wrong. So that is something that they can resolve quite easily. The other thing, and this one is I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but I think people at Cryptic internally probably wouldn't really argue with this too much. We've had a lot of brain drain within the STO team and Cryptic in general. We've had people leave from the STO team that were the only people that understood how to maintain the things like the Foundry, and with them leaving, those things have had to be shut down. Now, I think brain drain definitely has hurt Cryptic, but I also feel like when it comes to mechanics, metas, things like that, I feel like there's just a very big disconnect between the player base and the developers. Like, I don't know even, how much people on the QA team or the systems team actively play the game in their free time or whatever. I don't know how much they keep up with the metas, the mechanics, stuff like that. But I think it's very blatant, the difference that there is right now compared to when Jet was on the team. Jet, Cryptic Spartan, was very much engaged with the end game part of the game, the high end communities. I knew Jet personally before she even went to Cryptic, and can assure you she was very much involved with a lot of the high end mechanics and the high end scenes before going there. And I think they're just missing that. I don't think anyone there, is heavily involved with like the DPS scenes, the PvP scenes, and I think that really shows with some of the traits that come out, or uh, consoles, things like that. I think a great example for PvP is the trait off of, was it the Bozeman that just came out? I think that's the right one. The one that was the active clicky. Anyone familiar with the PvP scene internally would have seen that trait, where it's got the clicky of 10 seconds of not being targetable, and been like, oh hell no. Anyone familiar with the PvP scene would have been like, yeah, that's a no right there. So I think Cryptic really needs to look at bringing someone in that has that type of relationship to the community, or the type of experience to with the community that like Jet had, where they understand what people that min-max the game uh, do, that they understand what they do, how they do things, I just think that the game is really suffering from not having that type of connection like there was when Jet was there. And I could be wrong. Maybe there's someone on the team that is very familiar with the DPS scene or the the PvP scenes. I could be wrong, but I look at what traits we're getting, what consoles we get, and it just doesn't feel that way. And I know they want to try different things, of course, and I understand that. But that Bozeman trait, is a great example. And meta wise, I look at things like a trait that I shouldn't know about, and anyone at Cryptic that's been testing things will know what I'm talking about when I say that this trait would have been really great during the feedback pulse meta, um, off a ship we're getting in the very near future. Um, I look at a trait like that and I just see, or I think to myself of who's going to want that nowadays. I think it's good to have the options out there, but I think that if they had someone more connected to the player base, that they could develop traits that were a bit more popular with the current state of the game. So I've been on a bit of a rant. And once again, I'm going to say, I may have been negative towards a few things within the STO team, but do not go out and like tweet, harass, DM people on the team. I'm trying to also provide some constructive criticism here. So yeah, dude, don't go out and be a dick. But that's going to be it for today. Thank you to everyone who stuck around and watched. Let me know what you think down below. But that's going to be that for this video. So once again, thank you to all channel members. Next video will be out tomorrow. I pushed this one forward because it was just a spur of a moment video. So tomorrow will be the O game video that I'd wanted to get done today. So yeah, stay tuned for that if you're interested. If not, next STO content will be a stream on Saturday. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.